You have probably heard that ultra-processed foods are bad for you. But have you ever wondered just how bad? These foods not only make up the majority of calories at your local grocery store, they're often cheaper, more convenient, and taste better than nutritious alternatives. With 60% of all food energy in the US coming from ultra-processed ingredients, it can be difficult to completely avoid them. But what happens if you do eat these foods every day? And more importantly, how can you stop? Let's find out. What are ultra-processed foods? First, we need to know exactly what we are talking about. Ultra-processed foods are defined as being made mostly from industrial ingredients, with little or no whole food counterparts. They are usually ready to eat and come in an original package that has been opened less than once per week in most homes. Examples include cookies, chips, crackers, instant noodles, French fries, and soft drinks. The key thing to note here is that ultra-processed foods are not the same as junk foods. Processed meats, such as deli meat and hot dogs, are ultra-processed, but they are not considered junk food. On the other hand, some minimally processed foods, like frozen fruits or canned vegetables, are considered junk foods. But they're not ultra-processed. Ultra-processed foods are made by combining one or more of the following: refined starches, oils, sugars, and sometimes protein isolates. Refined starches include things like maltodextrin and modified food starch, which are made by processing corn, wheat, or rice. These refined starches are used because they're cheap, have a long shelf life, and add texture to foods. Oils like palm oil, soybean oil, and canola oil are also added to ultra-processed foods for their long shelf life and ability to enhance flavor and texture. Sugars such as high fructose corn syrup, glucose syrup, and beet sugar are used for their low cost and ability to increase palatability. Protein isolates are extracted from plant or animal sources during processing. One example is soy protein isolate, which is made by extracting proteins from soybeans. These are used to replace meat proteins and are often found in vegetarian or vegan products. In general, the combination of these ingredients results in foods that are high in calories, saturated fat, added sugars, and sodium, while being low in fiber, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. How are ultra-processed foods made? Ultra-processed foods go through several processing steps before reaching our plates. The first step involves turning raw agricultural products into refined ingredients. For example, corn is turned into corn, starch, and oils. Next, these refined ingredients are combined with other ingredients such as sugars and salts to form a dough or batter. This mixture is then cooked, dried, molded, and packaged to become the final product. This extensive processing not only changes the food's appearance, texture, and shelf life, but also its nutrient content. The processing removes many of the vitamins, minerals, and fiber found in the original ingredients. Additionally, it introduces new substances that were not present in the original form. For example, trans fats, which are created during the hydrogenation of oils, resulting in a product that is less nutritious than the sum of its parts. How many ultra-processed foods should you eat? The American Heart Association recommends eating less than 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day for most adults. About 75% of the sodium we consume comes from ultra-processed foods. The World Health Organization recommends consuming less than 25 grams of added sugars daily. Ultra-processed foods typically contain added sugars and account for about 80% of the added sugars in our diet. By avoiding ultra-processed foods, we can reduce our intake of sodium and added sugars, while increasing our consumption of fresh, unprocessed foods. So the answer is simple. You should eat 0 ultra-processed foods every day. What will happen if you eat ultra-processed foods every day? If you ate ultra-processed foods every day, you would be consuming excessive amounts of sodium, added sugars, and saturated fats. You would also be lacking in essential nutrients like vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Some immediate effects would be weight gain due to the high calorie content of ultra-processed foods and increased thirst and urination as a result of high sodium intake. Over time, consuming ultra-processed foods can lead to chronic conditions like obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even certain types of cancer. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that consuming ultra-processed foods was associated with an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Another study published in the British Medical Journal showed that people who consumed more ultra-processed foods had a higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease and cancer. The good news is that you can reverse this damage by making changes to your diet and lifestyle. Here are 7 ways to stop eating ultra-processed foods every day. Read food labels carefully. When grocery shopping, read the ingredient list and nutrition label of every product you put in your cart. Avoid products with long ingredient lists containing unfamiliar or hard-to-pronounce ingredients. Choose products with minimal ingredients that are whole foods, such as fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. Plan ahead. Planning ahead is key to avoiding impulse purchases and unhealthy choices. Meal planning and prepping can help you stay on track and prevent you from turning to ultra-processed foods when hunger strikes. Stock your kitchen with healthy, unprocessed foods so they're readily available when you need them. Cook more meals at home. Cooking at home allows you to control the ingredients and portion sizes of the foods you eat. Start by cooking simple meals with basic ingredients and gradually build your skills and confidence in the kitchen. Experiment with new recipes and flavors, but be patient with yourself as you learn. Don't buy foods in original packaging. When you go to the grocery store, avoid the center aisles where you'll find packaged processed foods. Instead, focus on the produce, meat, and dairy sections. If you're unsure whether a product is ultra-processed, use the rule of thumb that if it comes in an original package, it's best to avoid it. Shop the perimeter of the store. If you want to further limit your exposure to ultra-processed foods, avoid shopping in the middle aisles altogether. Instead, focus on the produce, meat, and dairy sections, which typically line the outer edges of the store. Fill your cart with fresh fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. If you do venture into the inner aisles, be sure to read labels carefully and choose wisely. Don't be fooled by clever marketing. Be aware of how food companies use marketing and advertising to make ultra-processed foods appear healthy and appealing. Look beyond catchy names and health claims and focus on the actual ingredients and nutrition information. Choose foods that are minimally processed and made with whole ingredients rather than relying on clever marketing tactics. In conclusion, ultra-processed foods can cause a number of health problems, including weight gain, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. By following the tips above, you can begin to reduce your intake of ultra-processed foods and improve your overall health. It may not be easy, but the long-term benefits are definitely worth it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.